Welcome back, everybody, to the Squatchers Lounge podcast. We are here. It is, good grief, is it March already? No, not quite. It's Wednesday, February 27th, 2019. We're talking about little-known tracks from Northern California in the Laird Meadow Road Tracks. That's right. Have you never heard of it? If not, then you don't know SQUATCH. That's right. We've got a Quasi Rewind and a brand new camping tips for stupids for you tonight. So it's going to be a fantastic show. That is for sure. Hello, everybody out there in podcast land. I'm glad to be here. I'm so glad that you are there. It makes this whole thing fantastic. That's right. We are going to be talking about another set of tracks that come out of Northern California in the Bluff Creek area. And we are going to jump right into it, because there really isn't much news other than political. And I got to be honest with you, I just don't care. That's right. Let me see if I can find my window here. YouTube has decided to give me the big white blob, so I'm fighting for what I'm looking for. Okay, there, that should do it. Yay, it didn't crash on me. All right. So we're out at cliffbarackman.com site, and he has got us up on the Laird Meadow Trackway. Now, there's a lot of interesting things that go along with this track. This one was found in 1963, October 21st, in Trinity County. That's right, in Laird Meadow. Now, we're going to talk a little bit about the location of Laird Meadow and why it's important, as well as other locations that are along the route. Now, Roger Patterson had been searching in this Bluff Creek area for years before the 1967 footage was taken. Now, this was actually taken the year before the flood, so he had already been researching in this area and tracking down trackways that had been found by other people for nearly half a decade before the 1967 film came out. And this is one of those cases that people rarely hear about. This cast was actually made by Roger Patterson himself, almost exactly 4 years to the day before he obtained the original Patterson-Gimlin film, just a few miles away. Roger documented the circumstances around his discovery on pages 18 to 20 in his book, Do Abominable Snowmen of America Really Exist? In Roger's book, the date of the casting reported October 21st, 1964 is likely an error, as it was discovered by Roger's authorized biographer, David Murphy. Roger had the foresight to carve the dates into the back of the cast as they were drying, and the back of the original clearly states the date was in 1963. Since the casts were taken in October, it's doubtful that Roger made a mistake with a year, as people are prone to do in January after the date change, not being used to the new year, of course. Now, interestingly, the prints were probably made by the same individual that made the famous print cast by Jerry Crew in October of 1958. Now, we talked about those tracks that were found by Jerry Crew nearly a decade before the Patterson-Gimlin footage was taken. The dimensions match well, as does the shape and the orientation of the toes. It's also possible that the same individual was responsible for tracks cast by Bob Titmus in 1962 and 1963 near Hyam, California. Sorry, my dyslexia took off there for a moment. If these casts are from the same individual, the territory of the Sasquatch must be quite large, as it takes about 3 hours to drive from Laird Meadows to Hamapam, and the distance being approximately 50 miles as the crow flies. It's interesting to note that the Hyapam casts were taken in the spring, while this individual's prints were found in Bluff Creek region in the fall months. Copies of these tracks are widely circulated, with the right foot being far more common than the left. There are copies available on eBay that made generations removed from the originals, which being safely kept in a secure location. So they have the original left and right casts of the Laird Meadow crossing. Now, we move on to Bigfoot Encounters website, and they tell us that the footprint was found by Pat Graves on Laird Meadow Road near Bluff Creek, California in 1964. During the conversation, Pat mentioned to Roger Patterson that he had found the tracks the day before, and Roger hurried to the location hoping to see the footprints for himself. What he found was extraordinary. The creature that left the tracks had come down from a mountain, crossed over Laird Meadow Road, continued down an old logging landing, and finally disappeared over a bank and into the woods with an average stride of 52 inches. Now, that's over 4 feet. That's like 4 feet, 4 inches. That's a long stride. I used to walk with a fella in here in San Francisco and in Las Vegas, and he's well over 6 foot and had well over a 3 foot stride. And he was tough to keep up with. I couldn't imagine somebody with an average stride of 52 inches what they could really create if they were moving. So if we extrapolate that up to the 50 miles the crow flies distance between where those casts were found, it's quite possible that that's that animal's home territory, just in different seasons of the year. Anyhow, each footprint was 17 inches long and 5 inches wide at the heel, which is close to that 2-to-1 ratio that we like to see in Sasquatch prints. The tracks were imprinted each 1.5 inches deep, far deeper than Roger's own footprints. Evidence of a flexible foot was seen in the prints, particularly when the foot had stepped on small rocks, the toes curled over them. Patterson made these casts of the footprints, and this is one of the casts that Patterson made with the left and the right foot. The life form that was made of this footprint is presumed to be a large male Sasquatch whose tracks were found in the area on several other occasions ranging from 1958 through 1963. Laird Meadow was and still is a sacred place to the local Indians they call Mountain of the Thunderbird. All right. And seeing as how it's Mountain of the Thunderbird time, let's go ahead and take a short break here and get in our quasi theory of the week. That's right. The quasi theory of the week from Mr. Dean Cooper's coming at you here in just a moment. That also means that shout out to the lounge people are going to be coming up here in a moment as well. So if you haven't said hi to me in the chat box, now's the time to do so. Get on it, people. No. 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 Sorry. There. And now, Quasi Theories from a Quasi Scientist with your host, Dean Cooper.
I feel like I'm going blind or all about orbs. Okay, not really blind, but you try looking at pictures of so-called orbs for half an hour or so and not get bleary-eyed. Orbs and Sasquatch, orbs and aliens, orbs and ghosts, orbs and nature spirits, orbs, orbs, orbs. You don't see them much with your eyeballs, but they show up in your pictures. Nobody much reported them showing up in photographs until digital cameras got cheap and abundant. People, orbs are backscattered light from your digital camera's flash. They happen especially when the flash is close to the lens, as in cheap digital cameras and your cell phone. The flash bounces off small things floating in the air near your camera's lens. Things like dust particles, tiny water droplets, even small insects with glossy wings. It doesn't even have to be light from a camera flash. If you have a light on your video camera, infrared light on your infrared video cam, even ambient light from a fire or passing car, that light can bounce off dust and give you a moving orb. Technically, the reflected light passes through your camera's lens and creates what is called an Airy disk, named after George Biddle Airy. Airy wrote the technical analysis of what causes the Airy disk effect back in 1835. They are caused by internal refraction in a lens of light from a point source. If your light source is sufficiently tiny and uniform, you get a point of light in the center of the disk, with several concentric circles of light expanding around it. Airy disks were first observed in early telescopes, when astronomers were looking at individual stars. How fondly I recall the many hours I spent using the Airy disk effect to align the lenses in my old catadioptric telescope. You knew you got it right when the star was smack dab in the middle of the Airy disks. Now, why don't all those orbs and all those pictures, if the orbs are Airy disks, show a little point of light with rings around it? That's because dust, bugs, and what all aren't perfect little reflectors, aren't perfect little point sources of light. Also, your cheap camera lens probably sucks and has flaws in it, especially if it's on your cell phone. On the other hand, If you see orbs floating around with your eyeballs and they don't show up in your pictures, you don't have airy discs. What you've got is spooks. Run fast. This has been Dean Cooper, quasi-scientist, enlightening you with my quasi-theory of the week. You may read the text of this on my blog at bydean.com. That's BHAIDIN.com.
There you have it. Orbs or spooks. I don't know which I'm more afraid of. I swear, it's one of those things. All right. Right after that, we're going to bust us right out into a camp and tips for stupids. That is if Facebook or YouTube will let me get to it. There we go. All right. Let's give it a shot.
Camping tips for stupids. Tip number 76. If the earth was really flat, then how come there's mountains all over the goddamn place? Huh? All you flat earthers are as dumb as a bag of rocks with a smiley face sticker on the side. And all those mountains all over the round earth accumulate snow on them during the winter. Accumulate meaning cloud snow on them and shit. Shit meaning every spring all that damn snow melts in the warmer sunlight and drains down into the valleys and rivers and lakes. 'Cause gravity, bitch. So the cute little sandbar you put your campsite onto next to that babbling brook, yeah, come springtime, your campsite is going to be about 4 feet deep in liquid ice that's actually so damn cold that it makes your soul hurt. Every spring, the creeks and brooks rise in water levels. So watch out for seemingly ideal camping spots, like spots that look like they've been washed out by water. Sandbars, sandbanks, but also lowlands that'll swamp up from spillover as the water level rises. I speak good. Shut up, Gabby. So basically, don't be stupid and drown your ass. Camp smarter. Camp is smarter. You got that?
Good, bad, I'm the guy.
This has been Camping Tips for Stupids. Remember to spay and neuter your idiot population.
God bless you, Jeff. Shop smart. Shop smart. That's right. All right, people. Let's say hello to our friends out there in the Hangout. I'm so hard for me to not close this window tonight. It has been creepy crazy. All right, let's see who's hanging out here with us tonight. Oh, there's the man, Mr. Broad Dupree, in the place to be. He's already got his Operation Pie Pie Valley shirts ordered and received. They are fantastic and ready to be on order at the Redbubble site. There'll be a link in the description here after the show, as well as don't forget the Patreon feed at patreon.com/cryptid corner. That's where all the Bigfoot campfire stories are disappearing to. That's right. All right. So Krista Monster Truck Gal, there she is, hanging out with us tonight. Cody Johnaway. Hello there, Cody Johnaway. I always want to say tits and glass, but it's Titan Glass 88. How you doing? Lance Windsor. There's our Canadian brother from another mother. Brown Dwarf's in the house with us tonight early. There you go. Chico. Oh, no, I'm Chico Rico. That would have been fantastic, but it's actually Chris Rico. Hey, how you doing there, Chris? Sorry, didn't need to change your name to Chico. Sam Squanch Rivera. There he is, our man from Clearwater. Jeremy Harrison, there's the dude. The dude abides. That's right. There's Tim McCune hanging out with us tonight as well. And we got Munson. Hey, haven't I told you to call me Big Ern? There's the Dean Cooper, our quasi-scientist himself. And it appears that Grabber by the Paldies couldn't follow the rules again this week. I might have to make a permanent ban on that account. We'll see. Spike Jeff. Hey, right back at you. The life and times of JCM, the man behind Gone Camping. That's right. The camping tips for stupids. Hey there. Jeremy Harrison, how you doing, champ? Let's see here. Brown Dwarf, hi. I think I said hi to you earlier, but I may not. We'll see. I have a very short-term memory. James the Grower, there's the man in the Great White North. Holy crap! I mean, is it going to ever get above freezing there? Let's see. Don Rife, there's the man. That's right. We're going to see him at the camp out this year. That's right. Don't forget about the official Squatchers Lounge camp out is June 12th to June 16th in the Pi Valley. Contact me for details. Go back a couple of shows and you'll have all the details you want. See here, who else is in the house? Jessica Weeks. Yeah, you careful, honey. You don't want to get that band hammer early. That kind of sucks. Let's see here. Who else is in the house with us tonight? Can SQUATCH. Hey, there she is. I think that's a she. It's pink. Beat me up if it's not. I'm not sure. It's gonna be one of those nights. I can feel it. We're moving on down here a little bit. Barry Bishop, hey, right back at you. Glad you're with us tonight. Donald Fuller's in the house. Jonathan Doty's in the house with us as well. All right, Donald Fuller, yeah, there. Karen Robb, hey, the wee. Is your name Maxwell? You little piggy went wee all the way home. Yeah, boy, my throat's really already starting to get there, isn't it? Kind of strange. Although I did go out last night and there was a kid coughing in the corner of the restaurant, and I'll bet you I have whatever they had. There's Squatch Box, and I'm sure Christopher's hanging out as well. Put some ketchup on them vegetables and wolf them down, man. That's the best way to do it. All right, we're getting down towards the bottom. There's California Pickin'. Drew's in the house with us as well. Let's see here. I think that does it for now. If I missed you, say I missed you, and I'll try and get you at the end of the show. But let's get back to this Laird Meadow information that we were talking about earlier on. Now, I happen to have been here to this particular area on a week-long investigation a few years back and hung out with the guys from the Bluff Creek project. Rowdy Kelly and Jamie Wayne and Ranger Leiterman and a bunch of other fine folks. So we spent a lot of time up there. Now, at the time that we spent up there, Google Earth wasn't really a thing. Google Maps existed, but it wasn't like it is now. And Laird Meadow had a lake in it that they had been searching for quite some time. Now, as you can see, here is Cedar Camp down below. It's along the Bluff Creek lines as well. This is Laird Meadow that comes right off of one of the forest roads that's directly here that leads all the way up to another place we'll talk about in a little bit called Onion Lake. Now, why are these places important? Well, this is a known Sasquatch location with more than plausible tracks that have been taken and examined by people before the 1967 footage of Patty in the sandbar down below. And we'll talk about that in just a moment. But this location had a road that drove down to it in 1963. Now, when we were there in 2000 and was it 15? I believe it was 2015. When we were there, the road did not exist anymore. And Rowdy and some of the guys had been working on hiking back in there to locate the meadow and the old road and the lake itself. And up at this point, they actually have Rowdy has been doing fantastic work with the drone project up there. If you go to the Bluff Creek site, there's a lot of drone footage up there as well. It's been located. The lake has been located. It's been mapped. They understand exactly where it comes from now. However, at the time of 1967, this road existing and all, this would have been an ideal place to create a hoax if you were going to put a man in a suit. Yeah, that's an interesting thing. I mean, literally, if you had a couple of horses and a couple of cars, you could have brought the cars directly up the road and left them at the hardpack road, brought the horses in a half of a mile, and then you'd have been able to perpetrate a hoax with no effort whatsoever. It would have been completely believable. The terrain is nearly exactly the same, only the fact that it's not directly on Bluff Creek, which is down here below. As you can see, it runs down below. If I go back to the actual map and get off of the satellite and pull over this way, the topographical map is hard to read here, and what this is actually doing is running switchbacks and running around the top of a mountain. And as you ride this road all the way around it, which I've actually done on an ATV, all the way up to the point of getting to Onion Lake. Now, as you get down in here on this same mountaintop road and get into the satellite and look, there's Onion Lake Road that runs right off of the main terrace that also has a Bigfoot sighting directly at Onion Lake as well. And lo and behold, there's parking outside of the lake. Now, if I were going to perpetrate a hoax in this particular area, and there was a road leading to a Bigfoot sighting that happened along the top side of that northern meadow there, I believe it would have been a whole lot easier and a whole lot more feasible to create a hoax with a man in a suit in a location such as this. But where it ties into, and we'll go back to the map here for just a moment, is we'll scroll out here for a moment and we'll follow Bluff Creek down the mountain to the point where the actual Patterson film location is several miles down here, down Bluff Creek itself. Nowhere near a road to be able to perpetrate the hoax without going in miles into these sandbars. So if I've got several people at a camp up Bluff Creek that are planning to perpetrate a hoax, why in the world would they go so far in off of the roads that didn't exist at the time, when they had roads that led to locations that were already marked and had tracks that they could have perpetrated that hoax from? It's a difficult thing to get past once you've actually been to the location itself. But when you go back to Laird Meadow and you look at the actual satellite, you can see that it's literally, 3-4 miles as the crow flies that comes across it. And then Onion Lake, another location, is right below that. Now, one of the things that I wanted to talk and share with you tonight, as well as off the Crypto Zoo news from Lauren Coleman, when Western Bigfoot casts are just older Bigfoot Western casts. This is something that I talk about a lot when it comes to these casts and generations of casts and details that comes with it. Within biology, according to the article, it was within biology, ecology, and wildlife studies, tracks are a good indicator that possible animal passed by a specific location. An analysis collection of examples known to be from animals represent a good database, enough for prints to give one a selected and important source of information on the animal that made the prints. But what happens when the database has corrupted data mistakes or straight up mischief in the collection itself? And the Laird Meadow tracks are one in particular that has that particular problem. There are tracks that were labeled Bend, Oregon from 1971. Ray Crow started his Western Bigfoot Society in Portland, Oregon in 1991, and he had been around for much longer than that. One of the supplier of casts, Larry Lund of Vancouver, Washington, who says he began collecting the Bigfoot material in 1963. One of the casts they had been selling was labeled as Bend, Oregon, 1971. He said he got his original from Grover Krantz, and he later explained that it actually was the Laird Meadow cast, as Cliff Brackman also believes, made several casts of the footprints in those days, and many, and some of them considered to be unproven, yet people lined up to purchase them. Of course they did. And now this is handwritten Bend, Oregon, 1971 on the back of the cast. The problem with it is the complete lack of attribution, absent of chain of custody, and avoid of the details of who, what, when, and where really the cast came from. And both of the casts, both the left and the right cast, were marked Bend, Oregon, 1971. Now, Cliff Barackman addressed the cast troubles in 2009, and after they exchanged emails back and forth, that they believed that, of course, it is the Laird Meadow cast. However, the same individual Bigfoot as the Jerry Crew cast, it could be that particular animal as well. However, the casts are specifically detailed, knowing where they came from. The Laird Meadow print, reportedly found by Pat Graves and cast by Roger Patterson on October 21st, 1963 in Laird Meadow, Trinity County, is a mirror match for the one in Bend, Oregon, 1971. And we do know that the Roger Patterson casts are actually engraved or marked or inscribed in the back of them when they were taken. And that's one of the problems that we have with a lack of chain of custody of these tracks now, and the database that Cliff is putting together on his website, as well as the physical examples that Dr. Meldrum has in his showcase that came from Dr. Krantz and a lot of other people. They try to keep first generation copies as safe as they can. Second generation copies are usually what is out there and gets sold. So it's really difficult to come away from this saying how big is a Sasquatch's home range. Could it be that 50 miles? Well, the military men walk 25 miles a day with 50 pounds on their back, and they've got about a 2.5 foot average leg span, walking distance. So if we double that, I wouldn't see how a Sasquatch couldn't walk 50 miles in a single day without really breaking too much of a sweat. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, that is going to wrap up our discussion on the Laird Meadow prints from Bluff Creek. And I'm going to do this just because, daggone it, I'm angry that it didn't show you any of that. And I'm going to go back to it for just a moment. Unfortunately, it didn't share when I told it to share. So we're going to go back and I'm going to show you that map location that we're talking about being Laird Meadow. Okay, now this is Laird Meadow. This is where the roadway led from the main road off into the trackway. As you can see, it was directly by one of the forest roads, and that forest road did exist back in 1963. What I was talking about was riding this forest road by quad all the way up, and it wraps around the top of a mountain cap, is what it actually does, until it comes down here to the other side. And this here is Onion Lake. And if we scroll into Onion Lake and take a look at it, you'll also notice that there is a road that runs around the top of the mountain cap and takes you directly into the Onion Lake area. As you can see, there is a meadow in front of Onion Lake that runs uphill. And this is also a famous Bigfoot sighting up here as well. So those are two specific locations that had roads that rode into them at the time in 1967 that the Patterson film was taken, that would have been far easier and better places to perpetrate a hoax than where it was on the sandbar all the way down Bluff Creek. So I'm sorry that the sharing didn't get done, but now you can actually see the distance between Onion Lake and Laird Meadow as well. Both of these locations are historical Bigfoot, whether they find tracks or whether there's a sighting location. The entire area had been a hotbed for nearly 10 years, which is exactly why Patterson had been in this area researching it, looking for remember, he was looking for a pre-human. He was not looking for an upright walking ape. He was looking for a pre-human that would wear skins and carry a club. And that is nowhere near what they recorded on the sandbar in 1967. I'm sure there'll be some corrections to this. I'm sure Stephen Stewart will go through it and make all kinds of comments to correct me on things. So keep an eye on it. Jamie Wayne will probably pop in as well as Rowdy to give some information in the comments later on. So for that, everybody, I want to thank you guys for joining me tonight. I do have another Bigfoot campfire story to share with you tonight, and we are going to end it on one of those. Yes, we are. Let me take a second here to check out and make sure I didn't miss anybody in the shout out. And I think we have got everybody squared away. Don't forget, there's Aaron Duncan. I may have missed him. And the Reverend Matthew Gaines has checked in as well. I think that may be all that I have missed. So, with that, everybody, thank you so much for being here and enjoy this Bigfoot campfire story. We'll have a hangout afterwards here in just a few minutes. What the hell is that? I don't know about you, but I'm pretty sure that was a Bigfoot. Let me tell you a story. Well, this story was given to me by Fred. Now, Fred was an old trapper I knew growing up in the Appalachian Mountains as a kid. He was known to be gone for weeks at a time up in the high peaks. People used to joke about him getting taken by the mountain devils. Well, that may not be that far off. At least that's what his story tells us. Well, I had been up on the mountain for about a week when the winter storm moved in. I decided to try and make it up to my trapper shack up over the next ridge. The wind was blowing so hard that the snow started to feel like shards of ice hitting me in the face, so I decided to get off of the ridge and into the tree line to try and get some coverage from the weather. I trudged on for about another hour when I realized that there was no way I was going to make it to the shack. I was going to have to hunker down and get a quick shelter up with fire and wait out the storm. I quickly grabbed up some tinder and kindling and set a fire to burn as I gathered up some bigger branches to start the shelter. I built up a fast rubbish wind block and sat near the fire to keep warm. The wind really picked up and the snow seemed to be falling nearly an inch per hour. If it didn't let up soon, I was going to be in real trouble trying to get out of here in the morning. Now, I'd been up in these mountains my entire life, and from time to time, I'd see things that made no sense, like a deer found dead with their necks twisted and livers taken out, and at the time, I'd find weird stick markers that really big footprints around them, much bigger than a man, of course, and, well, the legends of the mountain devils, but I'd always thought that that was just the local moonshiners keeping nosy people out of the area, but oh, how wrong I was. The night had grown dark, and the wind had settled down, and the snow was just lightly falling when I first heard it approaching. Slow, heavy footsteps sounded like they were being placed deep into the snow with a heavy animal, and the breath was getting louder as it came near my small makeshift camp. Now, if you didn't know it, you'd never even see that the camp was there. I heard a low grunt from just behind my location. I must admit I was a bit shaken, not knowing what it was. It walked along the tree line behind me, and then I noticed the footsteps had stopped. I began scanning the area around me, hoping to see what it was, and then it began to move again. The creature stepping along the wood line out of the shadows. When my small fire lit up the beast, it let out a shriek like I'd never heard before, loud and menacing, as it was taken by surprise, covering its eyes and peeking through the covering just to see me sitting there near the fire. It appeared to be a female creature standing on two legs, long, hairy arms kind of hanging low past the waist. It appeared to have no neck and a rounded head with a ridge sticking out above the brow. If it were not covered in thick graying hair, I would have thought that it was a giant naked woman. She raised her arms up again, and her eyes glowed. It was very disturbing looking, and she growled unapprovingly, kicked some snow towards the fire, and ran off into the darkness. I sat there shaken and confused as to what had just happened. Could it have been the mountain devil? Were the stories true? Had I seen it for myself, yet I still had trouble believing it was not a dream. The rest of the night, I kept the fire burning, and by first light, I had come to grips with what had happened. I had been visited by the mountain devil, and she did not approve. Thanks for listening. I'm Reverend Jeff, and may the Squatch be with you. Couple of late arrivals at the house of Georgia Bigfoot. Hello there, as well as Richard Barfield. And it looked like Michael Bird was the last one to slide into home plate. So thank you guys all for being here. We will see you next week, and may the Squatch be with you.